The fork slipped from my hand and clattered against the porcelain plate. The metallic ring echoed in the dining room like a small alarm. My daughter-in-law's laugh cut through me. "Another kid for you to raise." Her nails tapped the table, sharp, deliberate, meant for everyone to hear. My son Daniel didn't even look up, and the silence burned. The receipt was still on the counter, folded, marked in my name. It smelled faintly of printer ink, as if freshly stamped. She saw me glance at it and smirked, her voice rising. "Dad has until Friday," she told Daniel, "or we'll decide for him." Friday. My chest tightened as the date carved itself in my mind. I stared at the receipt, the numbers blurring in my eyes. Why was my name on that bill, not theirs? I raised my voice, trembling. "This isn't mine. You forged this." Daniel kept chewing, slow, avoiding my eyes. Her laughter spread again, louder this time, like knives in my ears. The smell of overcooked meat still lingered, heavy and sour. It mixed with the bitterness in my throat, choking me. I gripped the edge of the table, my knuckles white. They wanted me to pay for something I never agreed to. And the deadline, Friday, screamed louder than any voice in the room. Why Friday? What was hidden behind that day? I tried to stand, but my knees betrayed me. The chair screeched back, wood scraping tile, an ugly sound. Anna, my granddaughter, looked at me and quickly looked away. Did she know something, or was she just afraid of her mother? I pressed the receipt flat against the table, my fingers damp. The paper bent under my grip, thin but suffocating. "Dad, don't start," Daniel finally muttered, not meeting my eyes. His tone wasn't a warning, it was dismissal, rejection. The son I raised now turned away as if I were nothing. The bill wasn't mine, but the debt was already chaining me. I imagined the sheriff at the door, papers in hand, my name ruined, my dignity erased with one forged signature. Could I even contest this in time? 3 days only, 3 days that felt like 3 stones crushing my chest. Anna's spoon clinked against her glass, a nervous rhythm. She didn't laugh, she didn't smile, she just looked. Her silence was heavier than words, a plea hidden inside. I wanted to ask her what she knew, but fear stopped me. If I asked, would I place her in danger too? The hum of the refrigerator filled the room, steady, cold. I felt like that machine, useful once, now background noise. Daniel finally pushed his plate away, half the food untouched. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be," he said. But harder for who? Him or me? A knot twisted in my stomach as the clock ticked. Each second dragged, pulling me closer to Friday. They weren't asking me. They were forcing me. And I still didn't know what the cost truly was. The missing piece was hidden, and I had to find it. I reached for the receipt again, searching for clues. A small corner was torn, uneven, like something removed. What was missing? A line? A number? A name? Anna's eyes flickered toward the counter, then back to me. There was something else she wanted me to see. The air smelled of sugar now. Cake being slid onto the table. She placed it in front of me, smiling too sweetly. "Eat, Dad," she said, her tone soft, but poisonous. For a second, the family laughed as if nothing was wrong, and I almost believed it almost. My hand brushed the plate, and something stiff scraped under it. A folded slip of paper hidden beneath the cake dish. I pulled it free slowly, my pulse hammering in my ears. It wasn't another receipt. It was worse. The date printed at the top froze my blood. Friday, 10 a.m. "Sign it, Dad," she whispered, too low for others to hear. Her perfume stung my nose, sweet, cloying, suffocating. The paper crinkled in my fist, fragile as my trust. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might split open. Friday was no longer just a deadline. It was a trap. The lights above buzzed faintly, flickering once, then steady again. I thought of all I'd lost already. Respect, voice, place. Would I lose my home too? My freedom? I looked at Daniel, waiting, silent, complicit in her scheme, and I knew I had no ally at that table. Anna's fork slipped now, the sound sharp, almost deliberate. She bent to pick it up, her hair hiding her face. When she sat back up, her lips moved silently. Check the drawer. Her mother laughed again, thinking the moment hers. But I had just been given my first lifeline. I didn't move, not yet, not in front of them. My decision had to wait until their guard dropped. One wrong move, and Anna would suffer for it. So I swallowed the bitterness and nodded, pretending surrender. But inside, I marked the drawer as my only chance. Daniel stood, wiping his mouth, avoiding me still. He took the cake knife, cutting with slow, deliberate strokes. The scrape of metal against porcelain dragged across my nerves. Friday, 10 a.m. The words roared louder than the sound, and the paper in my hand shook with my breath. The chair legs screeched again as she pushed back, rising. Her hand touched my shoulder briefly, almost tender, but the pressure was sharp, reminding me of her power. "This will all be over by Friday," she whispered. Her nails dug slightly into my skin before she walked away. I pressed the paper flat again, forcing myself to read. But the words blurred, letters swimming in my weary eyes. Something was written in the margin, small, faint, almost erased. I leaned closer, heart pounding, breath shallow, and that's when the phone rang. The phone rang, shrill and urgent, cutting through the heavy silence. Daniel rose first, chair legs scraping hard against the tile floor. He didn't look at me as he reached for the receiver. My hand shook, still holding the paper with the Friday stamp. The smell of burnt sugar from the cake clung to the room. "Hello?" His voice was cautious, almost too calm. I strained to hear, every nerve in me alive with dread. My daughter-in-law leaned back, arms folded, eyes locked on me. She smirked as if she already knew who was on the line. The cake knife glinted beside her, blade dull but threatening. I tried to stand, but my knees refused to move. The buzzing of the refrigerator grew louder, mocking my weakness. Daniel's voice lowered, almost a whisper, but I caught one word. Friday. That cursed day, repeated again like a curse on me. Why was everything tied to that single morning? He hung up slowly, his face unreadable, his shoulders tight. I watched the tremor in his hands as he set down the receiver. Then his eyes flicked to her, not to me. "It's set," he said, his voice flat, drained of warmth. My chest constricted like a rope was pulling tighter around it. "What's set?" I demanded, my voice breaking in the air. The question landed like a stone dropped in water. But neither of them answered me, not directly. She leaned forward, her perfume too strong, almost suffocating. "You'll know soon enough," she said, smiling too wide. I gripped the table edge, my fingers damp with sweat. The receipt was still there, bent under my palm. I wanted to tear it in half, to fight back. But something inside warned me. Wait, not yet. A move too early would only cost me more. Daniel rubbed his forehead, sighing like a tired child. He used to look to me for answers, for guidance. Now his silence was sharper than any words of rejection. I thought, is this still my son, or only her echo? The doubt gnawed at me, worse than the threat itself. Anna's spoon slipped again, metal against glass, a nervous clink. Her eyes darted to the drawer, the secret she hid. I caught it. That tiny signal meant only for me. But I had to hold still. I had to wait. If I rushed, I'd ruin her silent courage. The air was thick, heavy with tension and sugar. Even breathing felt like a battle against their will. "Dad has until Friday," Daniel finally said, looking at me. Not a question, not advice, just a cold command. My throat dried, the words I wanted dying before they came. The threat wasn't only money, it was time, my dignity. Each hour until Friday became a blade hanging above me. If I failed, I'd lose everything I had left. I could already see the sheriff walking up my steps. That fear weighed more than the forged paper in my hand. I closed my eyes, fighting tears that clawed at me. But tears would only fuel her laughter, sharpen her scorn. Instead, I forced a breath, deep, ragged, bitter. I whispered inside myself, I still have time. 3 days to find the missing piece or die trying. She reached for the knife again, cutting another slice. The blade scraped loud, slow, dragging across the porcelain. She slid the piece toward me, smile dripping with venom. "You'll eat, won't you? You always eat what's given." Her words carried more than food. They carried command. I stared at the cake, frosting too sweet, sickening. I remembered birthdays when I bought cakes with borrowed money. Back then, they laughed with joy, not cruelty. Now the same laughter cut me open like broken glass. How far had we fallen from those days? The clock ticked, each sound heavy as a hammer. Friday, 10 a.m. The words etched themselves deeper in me. Would that be the hour of my ruin? Or could I turn it, find a way to fight? The doubt burned as hard as the fear. Daniel rubbed his neck, eyes avoiding mine again. His silence hurt more than her sharpest words. "Why?" I asked him, voice breaking, trembling, thin. But he only said, "It's done, Dad. Just accept it." Then he pushed back his chair and walked away. His footsteps echoed down the hallway, leaving me behind. The room grew smaller, darker, under her satisfied gaze. She leaned closer, voice smooth, dripping like honey. "You can't stop this. You're too old to fight." Her whisper stabbed deeper than any blade could. I wanted to scream, to shout, until the walls cracked, but Anna's eyes held me, pleading silently for calm, so I swallowed the rage, buried it in silence. For her sake, for my last chance at truth, the drawer waited. I just had to survive until night. The phone's dial tone still hummed faintly in my head. Her perfume still stung. Her laughter still echoed sharp. But the torn receipt, the drawer, Anna's whisper, those were mine. Pieces of a puzzle I had to fit together fast. And time was already bleeding away, 1 second at a time. The hum of the refrigerator returned, steady and cold. The cake knife rested on the table, blade smeared with frosting. The receipt burned under my hand like live coal. The silence cut deeper than the insults ever did. And then 3 knocks at the door. The knocks came heavy, deliberate, 3 in a row, not hurried, not polite, but official. I froze with the receipt still under my palm. The room seemed to shrink, my breath trapped in my chest. She looked at Daniel, smiling as if she had rehearsed it. Daniel didn't move at first. He hesitated, then stood. His footsteps dragged against the floor, slower than before. He opened the door, and a gust of cold air entered. I smelled wet leaves, rain-soaked earth from outside, and I heard the shuffling of papers in a leather folder. A man's voice, firm, clear, carried through the hallway. Friday, 10 a.m. He must appear. The words traveled like bullets, hitting me where I sat. My stomach dropped. Bile rose into my throat. Every part of me screamed to run, but I couldn't move. Daniel came back with a folded envelope in his hand. He placed it on the table like a final verdict. It was heavy, thick, stamped with an ugly red seal. She leaned forward, her smile stretching even wider. "Go on," she said softly. "Open it." The envelope smelled faintly of glue and damp paper. I slid my fingers across the edge, rough and jagged. My pulse hammered against my skin as I pulled. Inside was a notice, black print, cold, merciless. Hearing, Friday, 10 hours a.m. The words swam in my eyes, blurring into a dark smear. Why me? Why now? What game were they playing? I felt the blood leave my hands, my grip slipping. The letter fluttered slightly as if mocking my weakness. And then Daniel spoke, his voice low but hard. "Don't fight it, Dad. Just show up." 2 short sentences, like chains tightening around me. My son, the boy I raised, speaking like a stranger. I wanted to demand answers, to grab him by the collar. Instead, I just sat there, trembling, holding their trap. The chair creaked under my weight as I leaned back. The ceiling light flickered once, then steadied again. The smell of cake turned sour in my mouth. Anna watched me, her small hand gripping her spoon. She knew more. I could see it in her eyes. But could I risk asking her now, under their gaze? The drawer was still waiting, but the moment wasn't right. If I moved too soon, everything would collapse. So I forced myself to stay still, silent, patient. Patience had to become my only weapon. The notice trembled in my hand like a living thing. The words on it carried a weight I could barely hold. 3 days to prepare or 3 days to break. The deadline was no longer just a date. It was a sentence hanging over my head. Her nails tapped against the table in slow rhythm. Tap, tap, tap. Each one a reminder of her control. She didn't need to shout. Her silence was sharper. Her smirk told me she had already won. But I couldn't let her see the fight still inside me. The refrigerator hummed louder, rattling faintly in the corner. A draft slipped through the window, chilling my arms. The notice bent in my fist, crumpling against my grip. I could almost hear the clock ticking in sync with my heart. Friday. Always Friday. I remembered birthdays, graduations, Sundays at church. I remembered his first job interview, his nervous smile, all the moments when Daniel once looked to me for strength. Now he wouldn't even meet my eyes. How had I lost him to her hands? The envelope still sat open, red seal broken, glaring. I wanted to tear it apart, shred it into nothing. But destroying paper wouldn't erase the reality behind it. The law had already been twisted against me. The trap had already been set. Anna dropped her spoon again, this time on purpose. She bent quickly, her hair covering her face. When she sat back up, her lips moved faintly. Night. One word. A promise? Or a warning? I locked it deep in my chest, holding it safe. I forced myself to breathe, slow, steady, painful. Every inhale tasted of sugar, ink, and betrayal. Every exhale carried a silent vow I couldn't yet speak. They thought I was beaten, but I wasn't finished. Not yet. Not while Anna was still watching me. Daniel rubbed his temple, muttering under his breath. I caught only pieces. Done deal. Too late. No choice. His voice cracked once, but he covered it quickly. Did he doubt her? Or was he only afraid of me? The question lingered, sharp, unanswered, digging at me. The notice slipped back into the envelope, stiff, final. I pushed it across the table, away from my sight. Her hand reached first, sliding it toward herself. Her fingers lingered, nails scratching the paper edge. Like a predator claiming what she already owned, I wanted to speak, but words betrayed me. My tongue felt heavy, my throat raw and dry. If I spoke, it would be rage, pure and raw, and rage was exactly what she wanted from me. So I stayed silent, swallowing the fire burning inside. The cake sat untouched, frosting wilting under the light. The knife beside it gleamed faintly, cold and waiting. The envelope lay between us, red seal broken wide. Friday, 10 a.m., etched into my mind like fire. And somewhere in the house, a drawer still waited. The sound of rain grew louder, drumming against the window. The house felt smaller, heavier, ready to close in on me. Daniel walked out again, leaving his plate half full. She stayed, eyes fixed, daring me to break first. And I knew then, I had until night to find the truth. The clock struck 9, each chime echoing in my bones. The minutes stretched, each one a weight added to my shoulders. I reached for the water glass, but my hand trembled. Drops spilled, sliding across the table, blurring the ink. I clenched my fist, swore I would last until night. The silence deepened, so sharp it hurt my ears. Her smirk lingered, her nails drummed one last time. Friday loomed closer, louder, heavier than ever before. The drawer's secret burned at the edge of my mind, and then the lights flickered, leaving us briefly in shadow. The lights flickered twice before steadying, humming faintly overhead. Shadows stretched across the table, making her smirk look sharper. I gripped the envelope tighter, my nails digging into it. But something inside me whispered, there's still more to find. Anna's lips had said it. Night. That word was my rope. When the room grew quiet again, I opened the notice once more. The paper was thick, the ink smudged slightly near the margin. It wasn't new. It smelled faintly of oil and old glue, like it had been handled too many times already. Someone had folded it, refolded it, hidden it. My eyes searched every line, desperate for a clue. Custody arrangements, financial responsibility, my name printed in bold. But one section ended abruptly, a sentence cut mid-word. The page had been torn, uneven, jagged like a knife's bite. A missing piece. The truth they didn't want me to see. Daniel walked back into the room, his eyes avoiding mine. He poured himself a glass of water, hand trembling slightly. The sound of liquid filling glass seemed too loud, unnatural. I studied him, wondering, was he prisoner or executioner? But he gave me nothing, just silence and a turned back. She cut another slice of cake, the knife screeching on porcelain. The sweetness of sugar, mixed with the sour stench of deceit. She slid the piece toward me as if it were an offering. Eat, Dad. You'll need strength for Friday, she murmured. Her voice was low, almost tender, but I felt the blade. I stared at the cake, frosting, drooping under the heat. A memory hit me. Birthdays with candles, laughter, family together. But that was long ago, before lies poisoned this table. Now every slice she offered tasted like control, like venom. I pushed the plate aside, shaking my head slowly. Her eyes narrowed, and the room chilled even more. Daniel cleared his throat, but said nothing, his silence a wall. I wanted to scream at him. Speak, son. Defend me. Instead, I whispered, barely audible, where's the rest of it? The words made her freeze, knife mid-air above the cake. Her smile cracked only for a second, then returned. There is no rest of it. That's all you need. Her voice was sugar, but her eyes betrayed steel. I knew then she feared that missing page, and fear meant I still had power. The clock ticked louder, echoing across the room. I felt every second bleed into me, heavy and sharp. Anna stirred her drink, spoon clinking softly, rhythmic, nervous. She wouldn't look at me, but her signal was clear. The missing page existed, and she knew where it hid. I pressed the notice flat on the table once again. My fingertips felt the torn edge, rough and uneven. It wasn't an accident. Someone had ripped it deliberately. And the smell, oil and grease, didn't belong in this house. Had it been taken to a shop? A lawyer's office? I swallowed hard, a question burning in my throat. But I forced it down, not here, not in front of her. If I asked, Anna would pay the price for my words. I had to wait until night, just as she told me. Patience was agony, but it was survival too. Daniel finally looked at me, brief, fleeting, then away. I caught something in his eyes, guilt, fear, maybe regret. It vanished as quickly as it came, buried under silence. Dad, "Don't make this worse," he muttered. "But worse for whom? Him or me?" The knife clanged as she dropped it onto the plate. The sound rang sharp, final, like a gavel striking wood. She wiped her hands on a napkin, slow, deliberate. Her perfume clouded the air, thick, suffocating, clinging to me. Every gesture was designed to press me lower, smaller. I leaned back, forcing calm, though rage burned inside. 3 days until Friday's deadline crushed me. Unless I found that missing page, my voice meant nothing. The law wouldn't care for my trembling words. Only proof could save me, and proof was torn away. The refrigerator buzzed, louder now, a constant in the silence. A fly landed on the cake, buzzing against the frosting. She swatted it away with sharp annoyance, eyes flashing. Even in that small moment, her mask cracked. Control mattered to her more than truth ever did. Anna shifted in her chair, her foot brushing mine beneath. I froze, afraid she'd draw attention, but she stayed calm. Her spoon dropped again, clinking against the glass. This time she whispered, lips barely moving, "Drawer. Tonight." The words stitched hope into the fabric of my fear. I nodded slightly, careful, subtle, pretending to sip water. The glass was warm, metallic from the old pipes. It tasted like rust, bitter, unpleasant, but it anchored me. I forced myself to drink, to keep my hand steady. Inside, my resolve grew sharper than her knife. She stood, gathering plates, humming a tuneless melody. The sound grated, false, meant to show her control. Daniel followed her with his eyes, not with his steps. He stayed seated, fingers tapping the glass, restless. He didn't believe her as fully as he pretended. The torn edge of the page scraped against my thumb. That missing piece haunted me like a phantom limb. Without it, I was nothing but their prey. With it, maybe I could still fight. I closed my fist, sealing the vow inside me. The night would come, whether I wanted it or not. And when it did, I'd open that drawer. The truth waited there, fragile but alive. Until then, silence was my only shield. But silence was also the heaviest weapon in her hands. The air grew colder, the hum of the fridge constant. Daniel exhaled, a sound too heavy for his ears. She stacked plates, her humming sharper, faster, louder, and I sat still, clutching a torn page, drowning in dread. Then the front door creaked open by itself. The door creaked open, hinges groaning like a warning. Cold night air slipped in, carrying the scent of damp leaves. I turned my head, heart pounding, expecting someone to enter. But no one stood there, just the dark hallway stretching empty. And in that silence, she laughed, soft and cruel. "See, Dad? Even the house knows you're weak now." Her words struck deeper than the chill from outside. Daniel shut the door quickly, his back tense, jaw locked. He didn't laugh with her, but he didn't defend me either. The line between my son and stranger blurred even more. I pressed the torn paper flat again, fingertips trembling. The missing page haunted me, screaming louder than her laugh. But then I noticed something beneath the notice. A thin slip, folded twice, corner peeking from the stack. I pulled it free slowly, pulse hammering in my ears. It wasn't part of the summons, it was different. The paper smelled faintly of antiseptic and printer ink. Across the top, bold letters stabbed my eyes. Clinic bill, every charge listed under one name, my own. Prenatal expenses, checkups, prescriptions, all tied to me. I stared, my throat closing as if I'd swallowed fire. They were binding me to a child that wasn't mine. Her scheme wasn't only legal, it was financial, too. She wanted me broken, penniless, trapped until I died. The bill was their chain, and my name, its lock. My hand shook so badly the paper almost slipped. I looked at Daniel, searching for a flicker of doubt. But he kept his gaze fixed on the table, silent. "Dad," he said finally, voice dry, brittle, "don't fight this." It was the closest thing to a confession he'd given me. Her nails tapped against the wood, steady, arrogant. Tap, 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 a rhythm of ownership. "Your signature's already on file," she said, smiling. The words made me dizzy, bile rising in my throat. Had they forged it already? Or was that page missing proof? The refrigerator hummed again, its rattle louder this time. I clutched the bill, paper crinkling under the sweat of my hand. Every number on it screamed betrayal, screamed theft. Years of saving, of scraping by, now turned against me. I had nothing left but the drawer's promise of truth. Anna's fork slipped again, ringing sharp against her glass. She bent low, hair falling forward, shielding her mouth. When she sat up, her eyes locked on mine. Her lips moved soundlessly. "It's not real." The words struck me harder than the bill itself. Not real? Forged? Pretend? My mind spun in chaos. Was this entire debt fabricated just to crush me? If so, the missing page was the blade of their lie. I wanted to rise, to demand answers, to shout, but shouting would only feed their game. I slid the bill beneath the notice, hiding it again. She watched me, smile never fading, eyes sharp as glass. Daniel rubbed his temple, muttering something I couldn't hear. I knew he doubted, even if he'd never admitted aloud. Doubt was the crack I needed to wedge open. The cake sat between us, frosting sagging, knife smeared. The air was thick with sugar, grease, and deceit. Every smell clung to me, heavy, nauseating, endless. I wanted to smash the cake to the floor, to scream. Instead, I clenched my jaw, swallowing rage until my teeth hurt. The bill felt heavy, though it was only paper. Its weight wasn't in ink. It was in shame. Shame they wanted me to wear like a second skin. But I remembered Anna's silent words. It's not real. If it wasn't real, then proof still existed. Daniel stood suddenly, chair screeching loud against the floor. I'm going out, he muttered, voice tight, eyes averted. She shot him a look, sharp, commanding, but said nothing. The front door slammed, the sound echoing through the house. And in his absence, the silence turned more dangerous. She leaned closer, elbows on the table, eyes locked on me. You can't run from this, she whispered. Her perfume filled my nose, sweet and choking. Friday morning, they'll take everything and you'll thank us for it. Her whisper was venom, dripping into every word. I forced myself to breathe, slow, even, steady. Each inhale burned with sugar and ink and fear. Each exhale carried my vow. I would find the truth. I thought of the drawer again, its promise like a beacon. Night was coming, and with it, my chance. The bill bent in my fist as I stood slowly. She raised her eyebrows, but didn't move, didn't stop me. My legs trembled, but I walked past her, past the cake. I needed distance, space, air that wasn't poisoned by her. The hallway stretched long, shadows thick, walls pressing in. Behind me, her voice followed, light but sharp. You won't change anything. You're already finished. I didn't answer. I couldn't. My voice would break. But inside, her words lit a fire I couldn't smother. Finished? Not yet. Not while Anna still believed. The floor creaked under my steps, groaning with age. The smell of dust and wood polish filled the hallway. I clutched the bill tighter, knuckles white against the paper. If it was fake, if it was forged, I'd prove it. I'd rip apart their lie piece by piece. The house seemed to breathe with me, sighing in the silence. Every shadow carried the weight of Friday's threat. Every tick of the clock reminded me of the deadline. But the drawer waited. The secret waited. Anna waited. And I swore I'd make it tonight without breaking. The kitchen light buzzed faintly, then went quiet. She stayed behind, humming softly, voice too sweet. I walked on, carrying the bill, carrying the shame, and I knew the missing page wasn't gone. It was hidden, and I was getting closer. The house was dark when I finally reached the hallway. Every step felt louder than it should, floor groaning under me. The bill crumpled in my fist, edges cutting into my skin. I couldn't shake Anna's whisper. It's not real. But if not real, what proof tied me to this lie? My hand brushed the drawer handle, cold metal against my palm. The wood smelled faintly of polish and old paper. I pulled slowly, careful not to creak the hinges. Inside lay scattered receipts, envelopes, scraps of forgotten life, and tucked beneath them, something small and square, a tablet. It was old, screen scratched, case smudged with greasy fingerprints. I tapped it, and the screen flickered, weak but alive. Anna must have hidden it here, away from her mother. My heart pounded as the first file name appeared, Dad Agreement MP3. My stomach sank before I even pressed play. The sound hit me sharp, jagged, my own voice speaking. I agree to take full responsibility. I'll cover all expenses. The words cracked through me, tearing my chest open. But I knew I had never spoken those lines. They had stitched me together from old messages, fake and vile. The room spun as I gripped the drawer for balance. Fear turned my blood cold. Anger burned behind my eyes. My son's silence, her laughter. Suddenly, it all aligned. They didn't just forge papers. They forged my voice. Friday wasn't only debt. It was a trial I couldn't win. A floorboard creaked behind me, sharp, sudden. I spun, clutching the tablet like a shield. Anna stood there, eyes wide, face pale as paper. Her lips trembled, but she whispered, "Don't let her know." I nodded once, my throat too tight for words. I turned back to the screen, hitting pause, then play again. The audio clipped strangely, words spliced at odd angles. like a patchwork sewn from different years, different days. My laugh at Christmas stitched beside a voicemail from July. The result, a weapon aimed at my life. Anna touched my arm, fingers trembling, cold against my skin. "She made him do it," she whispered, voice barely air. I looked at her, disbelief crushing me. Daniel helped? The truth stabbed worse than the lie itself. My son had cut me apart, piece by piece. The tablet buzzed once, low battery warning flashing red. I panicked, fumbling for a charger, heart racing faster. If the recording died, so did my only proof. Anna darted across the hall, rummaging quickly in a drawer. She returned with a cable, hands shaking, eyes on the door. We plugged it in, screen flickering back alive. The sound resumed, my voice, clear but wrong. Anna's eyes welled with tears as she pressed record again. "We'll save it," she said, "a copy, just in case." Her courage struck me harder than my fear, but then the doorbell rang, loud, commanding. We froze, hearts slamming against our ribs like fists. The chime echoed through the house, long and sharp. She would hear it, she would come, and we had no time to hide the tablet. Anna shoved it back into the drawer, hand trembling. I slammed the wood shut, breath shallow, chest tight. The recording was safe, for now, hidden again. But the sound of my fake voice still rang in my head, a weapon sharp enough to erase me by Friday. Her footsteps echoed down the hall, heels clicking against tile, each step closer, louder, certain, like a predator stalking prey. "Who's at the door?" she called, voice sweet, but laced with steel. I didn't answer. My throat locked shut. The bell rang again, urgent, demanding. Daniel's voice rose faintly outside. "It's official business." The words sent ice shooting down my spine. I staggered toward the hall, Anna clutching my sleeve. "Stay calm," she whispered, though her own hand shook. Her eyes begged me not to fall apart now. I reached the door as she stepped into the kitchen. Daniel opened it wide, revealing a figure in uniform. The sheriff stood tall, face grim, eyes fixed on me. In his hand was an envelope, sealed with red tape. "Mr. Hale," he said, "you've been served." The envelope looked heavier than stone, thicker than lies. The sheriff's presence filled the doorway, cold air rushing in. Anna squeezed my arm once before slipping into the shadows. I reached out, my hand trembling as I accepted the papers. The tape cracked under my grip, sealing my fate tighter. Daniel shut the door, silence falling like a blade. The sheriff's footsteps echoed down the porch, fading away. I stood in the hallway, envelope burning in my hand. Behind me, her voice rose like a hymn. "See, it's all real now, Dad. No escape." I opened my mouth to respond, but the words died. The envelope was thick, unyielding, heavy as guilt. Every line inside could chain me to their life forever. But I still had Anna. I still had the recording. Hope flickered faintly, fragile as candlelight. I walked back toward the table, envelope under my arm. Her eyes followed, sharp, satisfied, ready to savor my fall. Daniel sat again, avoiding my gaze, tapping his glass. The kitchen smelled of sugar and deceit, choking every breath. I sat down slowly, resting the envelope beside the cake. Anna's whisper echoed in my mind. "Don't let her know." The recording waited, hidden in wood and shadows. The sheriff's warning still rang in my ears. Friday, 10 a.m. The world would judge me guilty. And yet, my proof was whispering, begging to be heard. I pressed the envelope flat, my palms damp with sweat. The red tape cracked louder, echoing in the silence. She leaned forward, grin wide, eyes bright with triumph. But I stared straight back, refusing to bend just yet. Then a sudden knock. 3 sharp raps cut through the room. The 3 knocks thundered through the walls, harder than before. The sound made the cake knife tremble against the plate. I froze, envelope heavy in my hand, pulse racing. She tilted her head, eyes narrowing, lips curling in delight. Daniel hesitated, but finally stood, moving toward the door. The wood creaked as he pulled it open again. Another figure stood there, this time a clerk, not the sheriff. His suit was wrinkled, collar damp with rain, face impatient. He shoved a second envelope into Daniel's hand. "This one's urgent, signed and sealed. Don't lose it." Daniel closed the door quickly, glancing at me once. He set the new envelope beside the first, red tape glowing. 2 envelopes now, side by side, like twin gravestones. The room felt smaller, tighter, air pressing against my chest. She leaned closer, her perfume choking, her voice syrup sweet. "Well, Dad, looks like you're very popular this week." Her fingers tapped the table, nails scratching wood like claws. Daniel didn't sit right away, pacing instead, jaw clenched. He muttered something low, words I couldn't catch. But I saw the flicker of unease in his eyes. I touched the second envelope, paper cold, edges rough. It smelled faintly of ink and wet cardboard. The seal was blurred, stamped poorly, as if rushed. Something about it felt wrong, tampered, altered. My chest tightened, suspicion gnawing at me harder. I opened it slowly, tearing the tape with trembling hands. Inside, the print was smeared in places, words uneven. The notary's stamp at the bottom bled into the page. Blurred, blurred, like someone had pressed it twice. Proof of tampering or just sloppy work? My head spun, torn between rage and dread. If the document was false, I could fight back. But if I claimed forgery too soon, they'd bury me. I swallowed the urge to slam it against the table. Patience, again patience, was my only weapon. Daniel finally sat, elbows on the table, face in his hands. For a moment, he looked like a boy again. My boy. But when he raised his eyes, the distance was there. The stranger's stare, hollow, empty, already sold to her. I wondered if he even knew what he'd signed onto. "Why the second envelope?" I asked, voice unsteady. Neither of them answered. The silence pressed down harder. She smirked, lips curling, then shrugged as if bored. "Double check. You're worth the paperwork, Dad." The venom in her tone left no doubt. This was theater. The refrigerator hummed louder, rattling in the corner. The clock ticked, every sound heavy, unbearable. The two envelopes lay before me, one clean, one blurred. One truth, one lie. But which was which? I stared until my eyes burned, but no answers came. Anna shifted again, her spoon clinking softly in her glass. Her foot brushed mine under the table, a secret touch. When I looked, her eyes darted quickly toward the drawer. The signal was clear. Keep waiting. Keep quiet. The missing page, the recording, it was still my anchor. I pressed both envelopes flat, sweat dampening the seals. Her laughter bubbled, quiet, sharp, satisfied. Daniel looked away, face pale, throat working as he swallowed. The tension wound tighter, air thick like wet cloth. I thought I'd suffocate if I didn't move soon. The bill burned in my pocket, reminder of the debt. The recording echoed in my head, my stolen voice. The torn page scratched against my memory, unfinished truth. And now, two envelopes sat before me, heavy, accusing. Each one another blade pressed against my throat. I leaned back, forcing myself to breathe, to wait. But the waiting tore at me worse than shouting would. I wanted to slam my fist, to demand Daniel look at me. Instead, I whispered, voice hoarse, "Son, do you believe this?" His silence was sharper than any spoken word. Her hand slid across the table, brushing one envelope. Her nails tapped the seal once, twice, like a threat. "You'll open both on Friday," she said, smiling. Her eyes glowed with victory not yet won. And I swore inside I would break that smile. The smell of frosting sickened me now, cloying, heavy. The knife beside the cake gleamed under the flickering light. The envelopes glared back, red tape like blood across them. The blurred stamp burned in my eyes, a riddle unsolved. I clenched my fist, forcing myself to endure another minute. Outside, thunder rolled low, shaking the window glass. Rain tapped harder, steady against the roof, drumming. The storm built, while the storm at the table grew worse. Every sound was an omen, every flicker a warning. I held still, waiting for the break I knew was coming. The envelopes stayed on the table, her gaze fixed on me. Daniel rubbed his forehead, muttering something like regret. Anna whispered silence, her eyes pleading for patience. The blurred stamp glowed under the kitchen light, mocking. And then I rose, placing both envelopes back in her hands. Her smile widened, teeth flashing, certain of her triumph. But I held her stare, steady, unblinking, cold, because I knew the truth wasn't in the papers. It was in the drawer, in the recording, in Anna's courage, and I would bring it out. Friday at 10 sharp. The room fell quiet again, only rain and ticking clock. The envelopes vanished into her grasp, tucked under her arm. The kitchen smelled of sugar, ink, and deceit. I sat back down, waiting, holding fire inside my chest. And then, faintly, the sound of footsteps outside the window. The footsteps outside scraped against gravel, slow and deliberate. I froze, ears straining, heart thundering in my chest. Daniel stiffened in his chair, while she didn't flinch at all. She kept her eyes locked on me, lips curling in that smirk, as if she had invited the night itself to watch me fall. A shadow passed across the window, tall, shifting with the rain. The glass fogged briefly, breath or storm I couldn't tell. The room tightened around me, silence thick, suffocating. Anna's hand slipped beneath the table, gripping my wrist. Her fingers trembled, small but steady, begging me to hold on. I couldn't wait for Friday anymore, not in silence. The envelopes, the forged bill, the recording. They burned inside me. I needed to strike back before she buried me whole. I stood slowly, pushing the chair back, wood groaning. Her smirk faltered just for a second, before returning sharper. The knife still lay by the cake, steel dull with frosting. I didn't touch it. My weapon wasn't blade. It was truth. I reached for the drawer instead, pulling it open fast. Her eyes narrowed, a flash of panic breaking through. Daniel half rose, uncertain, torn between me and her. The tablet clattered onto the table, screen flicker into life. A glow lit my face, washed pale by its cold light. I tapped play, and the room filled with my voice. I agreed to take full responsibility. I'll cover all expenses. Each word echoed sharp, false, dripping venom in their silence. Her laughter came fast, shrill, desperate. Look at him. He's clinging to toys, to scraps. But the laughter cracked mid-note, voice shaking faintly. Daniel's face drained, eyes fixed on the screen, jaw slack. He knew the splice, the stitching, the lie. It was clear. I played it again, volume higher, filling the kitchen. The cuts between words clipped, jagged, unmistakable to trained ears. But even to family ears it was wrong, unnatural. Daniel pressed his palm to his forehead, muttering low. She snapped, sharp. Don't listen. It's nothing. It's useless. Anna's spoon clattered again, loud, deliberate, breaking the moment. Grandpa didn't say that, she said softly but firmly. Her small voice filled the room heavier than thunder. I felt a crack in the silence, a shift in weight. For the first time, she wasn't just a child, she was witness. I leaned forward, voice low but steady, cutting the quiet. You forged my voice, my name, my life, for money. Each word stabbed, and Daniel winced as if struck. He muttered, Dad, stop. But his voice was weak, and weakness meant doubt. Doubt meant I had ground. She rose suddenly, palms slamming the table, plates rattling. Her perfume hit me in waves, sharp, choking. You'll ruin everything, she hissed, eyes flashing wild. Her nails scraped the wood, leaving white marks. Her mask cracked, fury spilling out for all to see. I didn't flinch. I pressed play again, louder. The fake voice filled the air, ugly, stitched, false. Daniel stood, pacing, hands trembling at his sides. He looked from her to me, torn, breaking apart. Tell me it's not true, he whispered, voice breaking. Her silence answered for her, sharp and final. I leaned back, letting the recording run one more time. Outside, the footsteps paused, as if listening too. The storm pounded harder, rain hammering roof and glass. Every sound outside mirrored the storm inside the kitchen. She tried again, voice softer, silk over knives. He's confused, Daniel. He doesn't understand the paperwork. But Daniel shook his head slowly, eyes narrowed. No, this doesn't sound right. It's cut. His words landed heavy. His first step toward truth. I wanted to grab him, hold him, thank him. But I stayed still, forcing my voice calm. You were my son before you were her shadow. The words cracked something deep in him. I saw it. His shoulders slumped, breath catching, shame flooding his face. She snapped her fingers at him, sharp, commanding. Don't be weak now. He's bluffing. It's nothing. Her control slipped, desperation leaking into her tone. She feared the proof, feared the sound of my fake voice. And fear was the wound I could drive deeper. The tablet buzzed, low battery flashing red again. I held it up, screen glowing like a lantern. This doesn't die with me, I said steady. Anna smiled faintly, tears shining in her eyes. For a moment, hope flickered through the storm. Daniel sat back down, head in his hands. She stood trembling, fists tight, breath shallow. The recording looped once more, jagged and false. The storm outside raged, window glass rattling harder, and then the lights cut out, leaving us in darkness. The lights snapped off, plunging the kitchen into blackness. Only the storm outside lit the room, flashes of lightning tearing the sky. Thunder rolled a second later, shaking the glass in the windows. I clutched the tablet close, its dim glow my only lantern. She cursed under her breath, sharp, furious, losing her composure. Anna whimpered softly, then pressed closer to my side. Her hand found mine under the table, trembling but steady. I squeezed once, silently promising her we'd get through this. Daniel stood by the window, lightning flashing across his face. For the first time, I saw him pale with fear. The recording still played, broken words filling the darkness. It echoed strange in the shadows, like a ghost mocking them. She tried to laugh, but her voice cracked mid-note. Her control was bleeding, her power slipping like sand. I felt strength return, small but growing, deep inside. I raised my voice, steady despite the storm. "Neighbors, come closer. Hear what they've done to me." The open window carried my words into the rain. I knew voices would follow, whispers spreading house to house. Humiliation was no longer mine, it was theirs to taste. Daniel spun toward me, alarmed. "Dad, stop this!" But I cut him with one look, unblinking, sharp. The boy I raised stood before me, but twisted. Now he would face the truth in front of everyone, and if he broke, she would break with him. Footsteps splashed outside, voices murmuring in the dark. Shadows moved past the window, pausing to listen. The storm brought them here, but the lies would hold them. I lifted the tablet higher, voice echoing through the rain. "Listen, this isn't me, this is what they made." The recording looped again, jagged, false, spliced apart. Neighbors pressed against the window, faces blurred by glass. One whispered, "That's not right, that's cut." Another shook his head, muttering, "They framed him." Every word outside sharpened the knife against her heart. She lunged suddenly, nails clawing for the tablet, but Daniel stepped between us, arms out, stopping her. His face twisted with anger, but not at me. "Enough," he said, voice cracking, trembling with shame. "Stop making me your weapon." Her gasp filled the dark, sharp as broken glass. "You coward! You wouldn't even have a life without me." But Daniel didn't answer, didn't move, didn't look at her. He looked at me instead, eyes wet, voice low. "Dad, what have we done?" The storm howled, wind shaking the walls like fury. The smell of rain mixed with sugar, sickening and heavy. I stared at him, seeing a boy trapped in a man's body. "You signed away your father," I whispered, and he crumbled, collapsing into the chair like a broken frame. Outside, a sharp knock rattled the window glass. The sheriff stood there, soaked, eyes narrowed, watching all. Behind him, neighbors gathered, whispering, shaking heads. He stepped inside without waiting, boots dripping water. His gaze swept the table, the tablet, the envelopes. She tried to compose herself, smile snapping back. "Sheriff, you shouldn't listen to this nonsense." But he raised one hand, silencing her instantly. "I've heard enough from outside," he said, voice flat. "Let me see the papers." The envelopes lay before him, seals broken, stamps blurred. He held them up, turning them in the lightning's glow. His brow furrowed, eyes narrowing at the sloppy ink. "This isn't clean work," he muttered. "This looks tampered." Her face drained of color, mask crumbling fast. He tried to laugh again, hollow, desperate, empty. But the neighbors' murmurs grew louder, sharper, accusing. Daniel buried his face in his hands, unable to meet anyone's eyes. And for the first time, silence belonged to them. I felt breath rush back into my lungs, strong, clear. My humiliation had shifted, my shame no longer mine. They were the ones stripped, their scheme unraveling in the storm. The weight of years lifted, just for a moment. But the sheriff's voice cut sharp, final, unforgiving. "This doesn't end here," he said, placing the papers down. "Court decides Friday, 10 a.m., don't forget." The storm outside matched his tone, loud, merciless, heavy. I nodded, jaw tight, fire steady inside me, but I knew justice wasn't finished yet. The sheriff's gaze flicked toward her, lingering cold. He didn't move to cuff her, not yet, not here. He left the door open as he stepped outside again. Neighbors' whispers carried into the rain, louder, stronger. She stood frozen, fury twisting her face into something unhuman. Daniel sat broken. Anna clung to me, and the storm raged on. The envelopes still lay between us, wet and stained. The tablet buzzed faintly, still alive, still glowing, and I knew the fight wasn't done. The sheriff hadn't arrested them. Not yet. The storm softened by morning, leaving the house damp and silent. Rainwater dripped steadily from the gutters, tapping the ground below. Inside, the kitchen reeked of sugar and spoiled nerves. The envelopes still sat there, their red seals torn wide, and my heart carried the sheriff's words like iron. Friday, 10 a.m. I barely slept, pacing the hallway, listening to the roof creak. Every sound seemed like a warning, every shadow like a hand. Anna peeked from her room once, eyes swollen, cheeks pale. She whispered, "Don't give up, Grandpa," before slipping back inside. Her courage lit me more than any lantern ever could. At dawn, I returned to the table, papers spread before me. The blurred stamp on the second envelope mocked my sight. Ink smeared across the margin, faint fingerprints pressed into corners. It smelled faintly of tobacco. smoke clinging to its fibers. This wasn't just sloppy. It was forged, rushed, unclean. Daniel shuffled in, face hollow, hair messy from restless sleep. He couldn't look at me, only at the floor. "Dad," he muttered, voice hoarse, "maybe it's better if you don't fight." The words sliced deeper than any knife she ever held. Still, I stayed silent, letting the shame drip over him. She followed soon after, perfume heavy enough to choke the air. Her smile was thin, brittle, stretched too wide to be real. "Morning, Dad," she said, setting down 2 cups of coffee. The smell was bitter, sharp, too strong for my stomach. Her eyes gleamed, already savoring the thought of Friday. I lifted the first envelope, pressing it flat with my hand. The sheriff's voice echoed in me. "Court decides Friday." But another memory pressed harder, Anna's whisper, "It's not real." Between those 2 truths, I still had a chance. The missing page was the rope I had to find. Daniel shifted, muttering again, almost pleading, "Don't bring neighbors into this. Don't shame us further." The irony twisted bitter in my chest, me shaming them. I raised my eyes, meeting his, steady and sharp. "You already shamed this family when you sold my name." His lips trembled, a protest caught, but never spoken. She snapped her fingers sharp, pulling him back under her grip. "Don't waste your breath on him," she sneered at me. Her nails tapped the table, fast, impatient, like a ticking clock. "Friday ends this. You'll sign, you'll pay, and that's final." The storm outside had quieted, but another storm brewed inside. Neighbors passed on the street, whispers already spreading. Some glanced at the house, slowing, eyes filled with suspicion. Shame wasn't mine anymore. It seeped into their walls now. And that small justice gave me strength to keep standing. The tablet sat hidden still, tucked deep inside the drawer. Its screen scratched, battery weak, but alive with truth. Every splice, every false word, all stitched into betrayal. It wasn't much, but it was enough to strike. Friday would not belong to them. It would belong to proof. Anna entered quietly, slipping into the chair beside me. Her hand brushed mine, soft, fragile, but filled with resolve. She leaned close, whispering, "Keep it safe until then." Her eyes shone, carrying more fire than both of theirs. In her, I saw the family I thought I'd lost. The hours dragged, every tick of the clock stabbing deeper. I forced myself to breathe slow, steady, calm. Patience had been my weapon, and now it had to be my shield. She prowled around the kitchen, humming tunelessly, pretending control, but I saw her mask crack every time the envelopes shifted. At noon, a knock came. Gentler this time, hesitant. A neighbor stood holding a folded note in her hand. "Sheriff asked me to pass this," she whispered, glancing inside. I opened it fast, the paper cool and damp from rain. Inside was one line, scribbled, "Bring the recording." My chest swelled, air rushing back into me like fire. The sheriff knew. He believed. He wanted proof alive. Her eyes narrowed as I folded the note, sliding it away. "Another letter?" she asked, suspicion dripping in her tone. I smiled faintly, for the first time in days. Daniel rubbed his forehead again, groaning under the weight. "You'll destroy us all," he muttered, half to himself. But destruction wasn't mine. It was theirs, sown by their hands. I would only reveal what was already rotting inside them, and that thought steadied my trembling bones. I leaned forward, eyes sharp, voice low but cutting. "Friday won't end me. It will end your lies." The words hung heavy, filling every corner of the room. She froze, laughter gone, smirk slipping for the first time, and Anna's small smile bloomed, fragile but victorious. The kitchen smelled of bitterness, coffee untouched, frosting spoiled. The envelopes sat like corpses, seals broken, truth bleeding out. The clock ticked louder, each second pushing me toward Friday. My fear hadn't vanished, but it had changed. Now it burned, not to hide, but to fight. She leaned closer, whispering just for me, venomous, "You think you'll win, but you'll crawl back broken." Her breath stung, perfume burning my nose, words digging deep. But I didn't flinch. Not this time. I looked her dead in the eye and whispered back, "We'll see." The day crawled, dragging us toward the inevitable morning. Every gesture, every silence, every glance was sharpened. Daniel drifted between guilt and surrender, a man undone. She fumed, pacing, unable to sit still in her own skin. And I held the recording in my mind like a sword. The storm outside was gone, leaving the air clean and cold. Night would fall again, and Friday would follow fast. I rose from the table, shoulders straighter, chest steady. For the first time in years, I felt taller than the room. And I knew the last word wasn't hers. It was mine. Anna clung to me as I walked past her. Her voice was small but strong. "We'll win, Grandpa." I kissed her hair, smelling soap and rain. That scent cut through bitterness, anchoring me again. And I swore to her I'd stand until the very end. Friday would come. The courthouse would open. Neighbors would whisper, and the sheriff would wait. 2 envelopes, 1 bill, 1 recording. Truth against lies. The final strike would not be theirs, but mine. And yet, as I left the table, she leaned close and whispered, words so soft they burned only for me. "You'll never forget me, even when you win." Her voice slithered into my ear, lingering like poison. I stopped, blood chilling, chest tight, eyes closing, because what she said still keeps me awake at night. "What would you have done in my place?"